Ezra, you'll have this next week. It's an incredibly international group of people who've been joining us, which is amazing.
I'm so excited about it. And we have a beautiful plate. Well, actually, two plates for the first session. And then we have a tile. I'm still trying to make my mind up about which tile to choose. There's so many beautiful ones. And I can't wait for the place to reopen so we can all come and have like a reunion. Let's do a party. Let's go to a party at Leighton House.
I'm reading the places. So we've got Greece, Dublin, Toronto, Watford, Milton Keynes, Muscat.
Watford, is that you, Aisha?
Watford was somebody who said it's Marion.
Ah, well, hello. Oh, so exciting. So many like new and old face. Oh, well, not old, but you know what I mean.
Familiar.
That's the word. Familiar faces.
Oh, lovely. We've got Dubai, Surbiton. I like it when you have like international places all mixed up with like different places just 20 minutes from me. It's quite a nice feeling.
Oh, Ezra, you have a student.
Hello. It's been a while. My class in Kubar, the one that I did like before. What year was it? I can't even remember. Was it 18? Is it 2018? Was it 19? Was it 17?
I reckon it was 19.
Do you think? Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Because you
I have no recollection of like being in Saudi like in 2019. I feel like it was ages ago, like 17. I was like even looking for pictures actually. Funny you mentioned that. I was for the newsletter, I was looking for photos of that workshop that I did. It's like I can't not have any photos. And I was trying to remember the year I did it. But welcome. I am glad to see you. Hi.
Do you think it would be good to pin you and Ezra so you're the that would be nice, and then you're actually sort of
oh gosh, so we just look at ourselves.
Ezra, I've just handed that over to Samira.
Just me and you.
Zoom us.
I'm sure there's gonna be, I don't know how to
Are you pinning the video or spotlighting the video?
What do I do so it works for everybody? I think, do I spotlight people? I'll try again. Spotlight for everybody. Remove all pin videos. Let me see if I can do this. So I don't know if
oh, hi.
Okay, I'm gonna add your spotlight. No, okay. Let me try that again. Sorry.
If you let us know in the chat what you can see, so that it's, because I suppose ideally
spotlight for everybody. And now with you, I want to add spotlight, which is what I thought I did. I'm going to try again.
There, lovely.
Oh,
lovely. That's perfect.
Very nice.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. I think people can see both of us unless you change your view yourself. But that's it. It's us now.
It's us against the world. Was that a song? Was that a movie? Either. Welcome everyone.
I'm just ducking out a minute to help somebody joining us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like your scarf, Samira. Tell me about it.
I don't even know where I got it from.
I was gonna say, did you get it from somewhere special?
No.
Was it like?
I want to say Southall, which is
that was my guess.
I'm not sure.
I wish I bought one of those scarves from Manura Leather when I was there that year.
You have to go back.
I think she closed her shop though.
But you can still buy stuff.
I think I can.
Okay, so
I've had one question come in via email.
So should we? I'm not gonna. I'm always jumping in ahead of things.
So I think is the idea. So we're very happy because both Samira and Esra have received questions via their own social media, which is lovely. I've had a couple of questions through from email, and then I think we were thinking just pop your questions into the chat, as if you've already got one in mind or as they occur to you. And then I think we're keeping it quite free and breezy. So brackets, not that structured, but hopefully it will work. So yeah, that's the plan. So over to you. I think we're just delighted to have you both together. It sort of marks a midpoint in our course, because next week we're starting our pair of workshops with Esra tutoring, which is really exciting. And it marks the end of the first two with Samira, which have both been absolutely fantastic. So thank you, Samira. So
Thank you.
lovely midpoint, I think.
Yes.
Over to you.
Nice and symmetrical. Okay, Esra, shall I go first?
Do it.
Okay, so I'm going to answer some of the questions that I got, and I think we'll answer them in turn, if that's okay. So I'm rearranging them into the order which I think works. So this one's from S. Jagger, who I know is Samita, and she said, how did the two of you meet and become friends? Well, friends, it's very presumptuous, Samita, that you think we're friends.
What are you trying to say, Samira? Are you trying to break up our friendship just on live TV?
No, I had to get in my joke. So yeah, okay, I'll tell you my version of it.
Yes, go on.
I can try and correct it. No, so basically, I think I was a student of Art of Islamic Pattern in 2013-14, and at a similar time maybe Esra was as well, but we weren't in the same classes. And then in 2014 they had a trip to Granada in September, which I think they're running again this year. I've asked Richard, or he's telling me about it. I thought, oh, I went on that trip. So yeah, that's in Granada. So in the kind of the discussions on social media, when people say, oh, who's going or I'm going, I think we crossed paths, but we didn't really have any deep or meaningful conversations. So then the first time I met Esra was at Granada airport, because I'd gone to pick up my friend Gia Mirza, who was somebody I'd been studying with in
I was just
class.
an imposter. I was just like
And then
rolling
this
into the
random
airport.
girl, she shows up. She says, "Hi, I'm Esra." No, I think there was a bunch of them who were on the sort of plane who we vaguely knew. So then, you know, we kind of were standing in a circle, and then I think we were talking and whatnot. And the course was maybe 2 days away. So G and I were talking about Cordoba, because I had a car, because I was kind of halfway through my road trip. So I was kind of joining the course, but I was going to still be in Spain before and after. And then I think you literally invited yourself. Am I wrong?
I suggested it. I was
wrong?
like, are you guys going to Cordoba as well? Me too. I booked a bus, but if you're driving, shall I join you?
So, you know, when somebody says that to you, you can't literally say no to their face, can you? You have to sort of say yes, and then after
you didn't actually say yes, though. You were like, oh, we're actually not sure if we're going.
So then on the way back to, because I was staying with Gia, and then you were staying in some random hotel
by myself,
miles away. And so, yeah, I think then the next day we kind of did our road trip from Granada to Cordoba with you in the back and me and Gia at the front. And, you know, like the conversations were really funny, because I remember they was talking about social media, and you were very busy on your social media. And then there was some random conversation about Tiny Temper.
Oh my God. I completely forgot about that, since I haven't actually listened to Tiny Temper. It's so long. Like,
there's lots of other conversations, right?
yeah. But then you mentioned it. Was it like last year randomly on Instagram about how short he was?
No, it was so funny. And you know, you sort of, when you don't know somebody and you're spending the day together, you do kind of get to know them, and you're like, okay, all right. And then the funniest thing was, like, when we were about to eat food, Esra would kind of pick up the plate and elevate it and take a picture, and we're like,
I was a travel blogger then. I was just at the height of my career.
And me and Gia were like, what's she doing? We need to eat our food.
I remember Gia was so mad about our food. She was like, you cannot touch my food or take a photo of it. I was like, all right, I'll just take a picture of my food.
It was very of the time where people used to really properly like take a good few minutes to do that, whereas now I think people just go pout and do it. But at the time, you did, like, I remember you holding up our meal in Cordoba we were hungry. We're like, what? We want to eat. So that was fun as well. But yeah, generally speaking, we then kind of spent the week together and on the course, and then became friends.
I think it really helped that we both lived in London.
Yeah.
Because you meet loads of people, and the great thing about these courses, you all have shared interest. So there is something to talk about. So when you're just randomly traveling with a group of people, everybody has their interests and you just happen to be in the same place. Where with this trip, we are literally there to draw, and we were spending loads of time together. It was an intense class. It was like from, I want to say 9, but probably 10 in the
It was
morning.
like 2 and something in the morning and 2 and a bit in the afternoon, say.
Yeah, and then there was like that big lunch break, which was 2 hours. And then we would just hang out. Remember, we went to eat paella as well. And then I had to send mine back because it wasn't only prawns, it was something else. I didn't eat it.
It was really nice. The thing is, I remember when I first started with art of Islamic pattern, I felt like I said some famous last words like, I don't need any new friends.
I remember
I've got
that.
lots of friends. Like, I've got all the friends I ever needed. Like you have this sense that, if you've made your friends by the age you get to whatever, you don't need new friends. But I had never really had friends who I'd shared an interest with, art and painting, and then the kind of the periphery activities that go with it. So, visiting certain museums and art galleries, and also, like traveling to places. So it was really nice to make friends on an art course, which I think other people have done as well, but it's not necessarily everybody's experience. And then also then that kind of is then the new kind of rhythm of your life, that you have people that you have a shared interest with, and you can talk to them at great length about sharpness and mono erasers being the best thing since sliced bread.
And not only that, it's like, because we were both working for ourselves or just like doing our own thing without a 9 to 5.
But not at that time.
No, not right away, but
Yeah.
then we had an abundance of random time that people who are working 9 to 5, they can't just randomly meet for lunch and go to a museum visit and then go to this other class and gallery hopping. And I think that really helped us, because with my other friends that I met on these courses.
Wait, you have other friends?
And I met them there too. It's like, it's really different because you have to work around the weekend schedule and whatever, and it just kind of fizzes out.
Yeah, my schedule's really irregular. So like typically I'm busy or working on the days that other people are free. So weekends, it's either work or family, and weekdays is usually when I'm free. So like daytime weekday is perfect for me because you don't see the rush of the proper London being busy, so you can just do stuff. So I think it's quite you realize once you're not in that 9 to 5 or in that rat race, or you don't have the commitments of kind of the sort of a school drop off or whatever it is that kind of dictates your life, it's nice to kind of have it a little bit, have other people you can hang out with in those times.
Can I ask, where have you traveled together, sort of following your art?
Uzbekistan was the big one, but prior to that we went to Paris. And
Paris was nice. Was it 2 days, would you say?
Yeah, it was a short trip, but what was really nice is like literally we went in every art store. We even sort of sniffed in the distance. It was just like, okay, ready to indulge, fully indulge. And then also, the Louvre, we had a good full time there, and we met another creative person we know, and then with her we went to the Grand Mosque in Paris. So those are the two things. Have we done any more?
I mean, we've been talking about doing more, but then COVID came and then it kind of put a damper on a lot of our plans.
I think, the planning, there was something we were planning.
Oh, Morocco. I came to stay with you in Morocco, so that was really nice. But Paris was quite funny because you messaged me saying, do you fancy getting some paper? And of course I fancy getting paper, right? But then she was like, oh, there is a shop in Paris I really need to go to. And it was, the funny part was I was trying to save Paris for this romantic thing. I was like saving it. But then I was like, you know what? What is better than paper and paint? Nothing. Literally nothing. I'm no longer waiting or saving Paris.
Can I just say, the reason that basically on that road trip where we met, you know, in 2013, I drove home via Paris and I went to an art shop and I bought loads of supplies. I literally filled my boot with my shopping. And one of the papers I bought in Paris, I could not find anywhere in London. So I went to Cornelison's, which is a really beautiful art shop in London. And I was saying to him, do you stock Sennelier paper? And it's this, it's that, and that. He goes, no. I said, oh, I bought it in Paris. And he was like, perhaps you need to go to Paris. it was such a nice way, like thing for like an art shop person to say to, and you know, about another art shop randomly in Paris. So it was really nice, this story of paper, but kind of brings it full circle. But yeah, it's really nice paper, by the way, if you ever get it. It's a paper block. And
do you know, I used one sheet of that and I haven't used it since. It turns out I don't like stretched paper. I mean, it's beautiful paper, just not for my purpose, but I'm saving it. It needs to be saved for something really special.
Yeah. No, I think paper is quite a big factor in what we like and dislike and prefer, because I do not like hot press. So
at all.
Not one bit.
I had no idea. What about like polished surfaces?
No, it's too much pressure to have neat work. I can't do it. I like texture. So yeah.
I see.
Right, I think we might have answered that question. Okay, what about, do you have that took a lot of time.
Oh, I have a relevant question. It is also about friendship. And I sent it to you. See, I'm not as organized. Where is it? There we go. Oh, no, that wasn't even the same question. There it is. Nope. Wrong again. How many questions did I have? What is this lie? Anyway, I'll tell you the gist of the question, and then when I remember the person, I sent it to you. Oh yes, FOZC 282.
Okay.
Said to us, have you argued with each other or disagreed? Your smiles truly speak. Do you ever have down days? And I reckon this is about us jointly and us separately. So do you want to start answering that? And
no, I think you should start.
Okay.
We've argued already.
Basically, Instagram is always a highlight reel. So if Samira and I had a tiff, which doesn't happen often.
I think so.
No, but say if we did, we're not going to shout about it on Instagram. Like that would be...
Have we? I think I'm quite a good communicator. You're quite a good communicator. If anybody says any, and I think both of us got decent intentions. I don't think we're out to wrong each other. We're not. We disagree with things. That's fine. We live with it. We don't have to agree with it.
Imagine if we had a fight, right? We're not going to drag each other on Instagram and be like, you know what Samira did to me today?
Do it.
So basically, Instagram is a highlight reel. Loads of the days when people are like, oh my God, you look so happy. 90% of the time, I'm posing. I have the same exact pose, which has been perfected. Literally, it's like, it tells you nothing about my mood of that day. But in general, it's like, as you said, really good at communicating. So if I said something that was like, it's just like, we don't really have weird things. Plus, we take our time as well. If you ask me something or I ask you something, we take our time in responding. We try and be thoughtful about it.
The life, right?
Yeah, and we're quite chilled, I think. That's the thing with us. Like, even when we hit some things in Uzbekistan of like randomness that we did not expect to come our way, we just kind of roll with it. We just have a laugh about it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a I don't make friendships with people I don't get on with. Does that make sense? Like you build friendships based on the fact that you get on with somebody, and that, you enjoy their company, and so on and so forth. So, so that's the basis of it. So generally speaking, if there was somebody I cross paths with who's a potential friend who I argue with, that's quite draining. So perhaps that they wouldn't necessarily be a friend I'm able to keep in touch with, because it's just like, no, not that person again. And the other thing about the kind of the fakery of life, when somebody is, we're all human, right? We all have highs and lows. It's really kind of I think I'm going to say odd or bizarre to think that somebody who smiles is a 24-hour happy person. Like, to right now there's really hard and difficult things to deal with in terms of what's going on in USA. There's always difficult things to going on in the news and in politics, and they can be a real burden on you. So it's impossible for anyone not to be affected by those things. So you have the kind of the highs and lows of whatever life throws at you. Then your own personal things. As women, we have a cycle, and it is so impossible to not be, have your mood dictated to you by your hormones and whatnot. So we have highs and lows for sure. And then life happens to you on an individual basis. Today, something happened to me, which literally turned my smile into a frown. I was like, so yeah. And then I'm quite sort of a problem solver and pragmatic, so I started thinking in like problem solving mode, and then simultaneously I was thinking, why do I have to deal with this? Oh, it's so annoying. And then you kind of let off the steam of like having some sort of like that, but you carry on. So yeah, I think if I come across people who I generally have a smiley or upbeat nature, I do recognize that there's a flip side to that, and that's for any human being. But like one thing I definitely think is I've got rose tinted glasses on, so I've got a positive outlook, because generally life is subjective. So you can make of it what you want, and if I'm a bit deluded and happy, I don't mind. I don't mind at all.
And I think we do have like a lot of crying moments. You haven't seen me cry.
You don't cry. What are you talking about?
But randomly, oh my God, the show that makes me cry, we need to watch it together. Make your home perfect. It's literally an interior design show, and they show you your house. Is there literally any reason to cry? Zero. There's no reason to cry. Do you see me watching it with tears like swelling and how beautiful homes are? Yes, I do. And I think that kind of balance out my life. It just like shedding tears just kind of like make me happier.
No, I love crying. Oh my God. My older brothers named me Crybaby when I was a fully grown, not baby, because I cried at anything. I was very sensitive. I'm still sensitive, but I just handle it better. But I literally cry at anything. And I astound myself at the things I'm able to cry at. So if somebody's running a race, like in the Olympics, very likely in 10 seconds, I'm in tears by the end of 100 meters, because I'm like, the emotion of it really gets to me.
Great patterns as well, surrounded by patterns in a place of patterns. No, you did cry at a mosque.
Oh no, Granada upset me, because I was like, look at this grandeur. And at that time, some war was breaking out, and I was just like, come on, people. As a sort of civilization, you're literally surrounded by the best of the best of the best architecture, whilst in the time you're living in, there's some tragedy going on.
I think it was the spring 14 or something.
Yeah, it was really hot.
That's literally when we were in Granada.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on.
Okay, I think there's a couple of questions, so I'm going to scroll up a little, and there's one.
There's one.
Yes.
There's one for Esra's, particularly about paper. I think.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that for Esra. Okay. All right. So, Esra, how important is it to use hot pressed paper for illumination work? For starters, does cold pressed work without sizing the paper?
The thing is, I want to say about art supplies, use what you have. Never let art supplies be the burden of why you're not doing it. Don't be like, oh, but if I had this amazing paper, if I had this amazing brush with these amazing paints, then I will start. Why are you doing this to yourself? It's like, it's so beautiful to paint, and I want you to do it no matter what you have. In terms of specifically hot press versus cold press, hot press is just a nicer, smoother surface because you are painting very small motifs and you are outlining. Say if you don't outline, then you can maybe forego the hot press because you don't need that line to be smooth. So it really depends on what you want to see as well. If you want an exact replica of what they used to have, they had hot press paper. They didn't call it that. It was just their paper style back then, their molds. And it was a very polished surface because you want the ink to flow. So if you don't have that, the ink stops, but that doesn't stop me from using cotton paper. So I use cotton paper all the time, and that is referred to as cold press or rough and medium surface. And yes, my line breaks. It's fine. I just re-dip my brush into the ink and carry on. So the thing I want to say, it's up to you. As a replica, you want it a replica hot press plus sizing. Yes, this is a surprise to people, but I can be really lazy. And I like I know, right? It's mind blowing. And I like minimal things. So sometimes I just have my paper and I just want to paint and I just go ahead with whatever paper that I have. Would it feel a bit nicer if I sized it? Yes, it would. Did I do it? No. So it really depends on the outcome that you want to achieve, how it feels to you, what steps you want to take. Do you want to sell your work? If you polish your surface, the surface of the paper, you can add it as part of the selling. Look at this beautiful shiny paper that I also prepared by hand, and add like another 200 pounds into your work. So it really depends on the outcome that you want. Sometimes I take cold press paper and I also size it and polish it. It also works. It doesn't give me the same exact surface, but it's also really beautiful. What are your thoughts, Samira, on paper? You said you don't like hot press.
No, because I'd say my angle on all of this stuff is that I'm not a traditional painter at all. So basically, like you can see behind me, so basically I like drawing on a smooth piece of paper, whether it's a printer paper, laser printer paper, or whether it's a Bristol board or whatever. Actually, I even like drawing on cold press once in a while because I just like the kind of the bumpity bump of the compass going around is quite, I don't know, there's something quite fun about that. So the drawing and the painting is just, I like cold press because it's forgiving. So I can use watercolors, and I tend to use watercolors in, I would say, probably a contemporary way. There's nothing traditional about the techniques or ways I use. It's just me navigating the path through beautiful colors that I like working with and trying to find a way to create them. So I think somebody said to me, oh, so it's like the medieval patterns with the contemporary watercolors. I said, what? That is a great description. And I hadn't ever thought or used the word contemporary in my life up until 3 months ago when this person mentioned it. And now I'm like, I should just get a badge. But yeah, so that kind of reflects what I think is my my aesthetic. I didn't think I'd use that word either. But yeah, because it is kind of very free and creative in terms of how I do it.
Would you describe it as intuitive contemporary? You're just following your intuition. I know
I
you love
like
that
it
word.
intuitive. Yeah, I would say it could be. Yeah. It's yeah.
Very millennial, the word. We use it a lot as my generation.
Do you?
Everything is intuitive. Like literally, I was asking somebody about a recipe, and they're like, it's very intuitive how you throw the flour in. And I'm like, wow.
No, I get it. It's a good word because it does mean you're not measuring or, really thinking too hard about something, but there is something that's guiding you from within. But I guess any word overused feels like you want to roll your eyes a little bit.
But speaking of that, we have a very relevant question. So
Yeah.
Miriam is asking, do you think you utilize your strong emotions in terms of making, is that a word? Of making your artwork? Does that make sense to you? It's in the chat.
Oh, okay. There's one above her from Yusra, so we'll do that in a second.
Yeah,
so,
I just thought this is like, because we were talking about.
Yeah, no, I understand. I don't know if I have strong emotions as a general thing, I'm quite even keeled. But yesterday I actually shouted at somebody. It was really fun. Sorry.
Tell us about your shouty adventures.
I'll just go on a little sidetrack. So somebody, you know, when you're going to park somewhere and a human being is standing there as though they're saving the car space for some coming car. I thought,
Oh,
man.
I've never seen. I don't drive, but continue.
But basically, you can't stand in a space to save it. That's not.
Oh, so they were like
So,
kind of like
that's
holding
so
the
rude.
space.
That's not
yeah. So I ended up sort of saying to her, move, and she didn't move. And then her parents or her sister or her auntie or her father, you know, they kind of moved. They literally were standing on top of the car, and it was, you know, like right beside it, not letting me go. So I finally edged in, and when I got out of the car, I literally was like, in her direction, and I was just saying to my friend, I really enjoyed it because, you know, I didn't feel threatened by the situation. I thought, you know, like, what were you doing? And she was arguing back. Maybe
But
she
what did you say? Tell me. I'm intrigued.
Oh no, I can't remember what I said. I just basically commented on how ridiculous an idea or concept is, because she was saying I was being selfish and I didn't understand. So if you're going to accuse me, anyway, so basically, generally speaking, I think I'm quite even keeled. I don't think I am. I don't have strong.
I like that word. I've never used it.
Okay, go for it. But yeah, sometimes with paintings, I think you do need to be in a certain frame of mind to draw and paint. You know, you need to have a certain energy. Like you can't necessarily always do it when you're tired. You have to have a certain sort of feeling of inspiration sometimes. So I've got a painting I need to complete, but I've reached a block, so I keep doing other things in its place and hoping that, you know, like I can like reset and get some sort of idea. And usually people, for me, they don't need me to paint to a deadline. So that kind of freedom means you kind of are allowed to kind of reach a place of being able to paint and draw rather than you have to like perform on demand. So I quite like that I'm not having to be creative and perform really well on demand by a time limit. It's not a, what's the word, I haven't got like these deadlines on me that often, so that's quite nice. So yeah, I think it's not necessarily the emotions, but you have to have a few things ticked off, like not be tired, be in the kind of mood, feel a bit inspired, I guess. What about you, Esra? How would you say?
I would say I would definitely use the same word, energy, because I have different energies within the day, within the week. Sometimes I wake up and I have this energy, a type of creative energy. But if I write something, so this is the thing with my PhD that was really annoying. If I spend my morning writing, it takes it out of my soul. Like I feel like literally it has been taken out, and then I can't paint that day because I've already used up my little inner bit of energy. And I think strong emotions, I find it really hard. If I have strong negative emotions, I cannot utilize them for artwork. I would use the time to journal to kind of try and get rid of it.
Journal
on my phone. I mean, it's not official journaling, but it's like I have a folder about called feelings, and I just and I just like type up, because like every time I have an actual journal, I never write in it. And I have a collection near my bed of like, oh my, I started this journal this month, I'm gonna carry on. Anyway, but it's like if it's a strong negative emotion, it's like unless I really have to do some artwork, I would steer away, because you can see it in my outlining. You can literally see angry outlines on paper, and I don't like them. I usually don't like any artwork that I do when I'm in a negative emotional state, because I will remember it. If I was beaming and super happy, maybe I would go and do artwork, but usually I have this like work energy. So it's like I would do paint, like the actual paint making, or so it really depends on my energy. So there's different levels of energy at different times of the day. And as you mentioned with our cycle, and I was listening to this really interesting person on a podcast, probably Samira, it was probably Samira. And I was like, she was saying that track your cycle, because and your mood within that cycle, your productivity, because it actually repeats itself. Like for example, she said do it on an annual level as well, because sometimes in the spring you have this creative extra energy, sometimes in the winter you don't have this specific energy, and it's nice to kind of work within your cycle instead of like pushing that away as a burden. Just, you know, when your time is to be creative and you can just like roll with it.
Yeah, I guess I know myself quite well. So in winter, I find it hard to be chirpy anyway. And so like the whole how the year is, I
Yeah.
love working in the studio when the doors are open, put on either a good bit of music or a playlist, or I love Radio 4 and can listen to it endlessly, or an audio book. So you set up the circumstances, and sometimes it's setting up is easier because it's a lovely day, it's not too busy, you've had a good night's sleep, you've got a lovely drink that keeps you sustained. So sometimes you can set up some of the circumstances as well. Okay, I'm going to answer the question from let's scroll up one moment. It's from Yusra, and it says, I live in a place full of Islamic architecture and geometric patterns. I want to reach the level of being able to analyze them and geometrically constructing. How can I learn that? Well, if you kind of pace yourself and think of this as a long-term ambition, you need to put in the hours basically. So you can start at basic level. I've got a website full of resources that you can start at, and I've got a beginner's course on Udemy. I've got a lot of intermediate level things, and I've even got some series of tutorials. So the idea is, when you have such kind of a goal or an ambition, kind of give yourself the chance and the time period to reach that, because it's really hard to learn to draw and learn to see quickly. There's things that were shown to me or I'd seen on social media when I first started learning, and I didn't understand them. I was quite frustrated, but I didn't really say anything or do anything. But sometimes people do kind of feel like, I don't understand this and I want to understand this. But, like, you're not supposed to necessarily understand everything straight away. That's quite a big ambition. So if you don't fully understand something, take from it what you can, learn from it what you can, but be ready to put in the practice, because practice is the thing that makes the progress. You're training your eye, you're training your hand, you're getting better at recognizing certain things that seemed alien then become familiar. And if you go back to things that you sort of might have seen at the beginning of your journey or early on, that you remember significantly being, like, oh, I don't understand that, or I don't get it, you then see that you can progress. And I would say, because it's one of those things that isn't necessarily that formal, like if you wanted to study mathematics or geometry in a formal sense, it would take you in a different direction. To be able to learn about these patterns seems to be outside of university, done by independent artists and geometers kind of energy. So therefore you've got to be really, what's the word, motivated to learn in, I guess, these what's the word, innovative new ways, and sort of a bit of a self-starter, because nobody's telling you to do this and do that. You don't have deadlines. You just got to kind of get as much as you can from the free resources and from the paid resources, and practice. This is the key. And if you're willing to put that in, I think it would take, I guess, a number of years, but you will see the progress, and you'll definitely see your ability to see and understand and look at a pattern and get a sense of how it could be drawn. Not necessarily know straight away how it's drawn, but yeah, get a sense of it. Will grow and grow, definitely. So yeah, I said go to my website.
Which is an amazing website filled with resources, and I 100% agree with the word seeing. Oh my God, so many things I couldn't even see. They were right in front of me. All these motifs, all the stars, all the things. And I still didn't understand what I was looking at.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is the thing, learning to see, especially that visually, we are not surrounded by a lot of these things. So my voice keeps going today. I don't know. All
Have a glass of water.
all the singing I do. But basically, seeing the things is really the first step, and sometimes all you need to do is like sketch out these patterns. So look at the pattern, count how many angles, how many times is it repeated, what is the primary number. And maybe you find yourself surrounded by a lot of patterns that are 6-pointed stars, like it has 6 points or 8 points or 4 points, and then you go into Samira's website and be like, okay, what does she have about 4-point stars or 6 points? And that's how you kind of grow, because it doesn't actually, there isn't a method. There used to be a method way back in the day, but no one actually recorded a lot of these methods. There are some really good books. What's that book, Samira?
Jay Bonner. I mean, the thing is, also it's quite overwhelming.
Oh, it's a
So,
very
you know,
hard book.
so sometimes, you know, like just having a way in, if you think that the way in is going to be a smooth, straight path, that today I shall learn all the 4-fold patterns, then I will learn all the 6-fold patterns, then I will learn, even that can be unstructured. And some of them, like, for example, you could learn about 4 and 8-fold patterns for months and months and months, and it could occupy your mind. So also, do not be overwhelmed. Do not think necessarily there's a right or wrong way to just start. And sometimes, you know, your path is kind of, you're progressing, and sometimes you'll come across something which maybe isn't quite right and you don't understand it, but you just got to keep persevering. Yeah, it's definitely important to do that.
And as well, ask yourself, what is the purpose? Am I learning these analysis? Why do you want to learn it? Just for joy? Because if you just treat it as a joyful thing, as Samira said, you can take your time with it, you don't have that pressure. But if you want to learn it to teach it because you want to make an income of it, it's going to be like much more stressful journey, because you have that very specific end goal, you know what I mean? So it's just starting, trying to see, and practicing. Like, I did 700 bazillion classes that are all not relevant to each other. I randomly learned botanical painting, and then I was like doing egg tempera. Before that, I was doing machine knitting. And yes, they are all kind of irrelevant to each other, but when I bring them all in, they kind of each give me a tiny piece of information that I can build upon. So it's like, just keep learning and practicing without putting a very strict number on yourself of like, oh, this is the year that I'm going to learn. Well, what if it takes 2 years?
Do you know what, that's really interesting about how you said about number of courses. I've been on very few courses, and I do consider that I'm a lifelong learner and I love learning, but I'm really somehow, I don't know why, so focused on like one sort of aspect and one type of family, so these geometric patterns. But also I love learning about myself by repeating what I do. So it's very rare that I draw a pattern once, I'll draw it repeatedly. So I also don't, because I'm wanting to teach, I don't like to be too influenced by people. So the minute I decided I wanted to start teaching, I sort of said, I'm not going to learn. So it's really interesting that Esra and I have very different approaches, because we are different, we're different people. So, you know, you've got to find what suits you and what works for you. And clearly it works for us. So, you know, also don't think there's a one route or one way to kind of be a learner. There's many different ways. And I think we could say we're quite like extremely different, right? In that way, in terms of how we go about it. I kind of reluctantly went on a course. It was the summer school Scotland PSTA, but I couldn't resist the thought of meeting like Alan Adams and Rajan Aspo and Daud Sutton, and I was just like, I want to meet them.
Were you having a fangirl moment?
So yeah, I basically went on the course because more than the going on the course, just that I wanted to like meet these people that I'd only ever kind of come across online. So it was really funny. In the end, Rajan didn't make it in person because he had to do his thing on via Zoom, and I was like, okay. But I did eventually meet him in Granada. So
and this is the other thing as well, when it comes to learning, it's the connections that you make with people. Like, people will remember you more. Like, these instructors now remember Samira more than if they've never met her. So it's like, I mean, maybe you'd have made an impression. Like, they would have remembered you even if they haven't met you in person. But like, there are like advantages and disadvantages, and it's really funny. Sometimes I message Samira and be like, oh my god, look at this expensive course that I'm dying to do, and she's like, is it really the best use of your money?
No, but also, like, for example, you subscribe to things, and I literally subscribe to nothing. So it's so interesting to me that, like, I don't know, I just love I don't know why I sort of save my money on, but yeah, I'm very, especially when I was establishing myself, I literally kept such a tight rein on everything. So yeah, one of them was don't expose myself to and be influenced by other teachers. I want to find my voice and my way and my methods. Now, talking of that, can I just say, I've got a question here from Fatin. She says, what's your best technique when it comes to transfer the artwork from tracing paper to the final sketch paper or canvas? Smear a spoon technique is genius, but might be hard to conduct with complex patterns. Thanks, smiley face. Okay, so basically, when you're transferring patterns, there are a number of ways to do it. And you again have to find what suits you and what works for you. I obviously, you know, I love the spoon because it's quite quick and I'm really good at it. And I've seen people do it really badly. And I'm like, how dare you misuse my spoon method and give it a bad name? So I'm very precise with it. And also when I say very precise, I'm painting. I'm not even that fussy a painter. I can really disguise my mistakes and my problems with great ease. And, you know, like, so in a way, the imprecision, which I know is part of it, I am so good at fixing and like going and powering on through to the painting end, because I like to paint in like a, not a sitting. I don't like paintings to take too many days or so on. So therefore it suits me. So the other techniques that I know, and then Esra, maybe you can add to them, is literally redrawing the pattern. So you trace it and you turn it upside down and redraw the pattern using a light box. So you're not really tracing at all. You're basically just seeing through your paper and painting or drawing directly onto your new piece of paper. I've done that for paintings. It's really fun. The other one is the pigment, which I think, Esra, I'm going to hand over to you, and then the other techniques.
So I just keep drawing my design forever. I literally today, that's what I did. I drew the same section about 8 times. And yes, your tracing paper will wear off after about the 4th time. So when you are about to do that 4th or 3rd tracing, put another tracing on top. So as you're transferring, you're tracing it to a new sheet of tracing paper. So you have it. The thing is, a lot of my work is super detailed. If I use the spoon or the burnisher, some people use the burnisher exactly like they would do the spoon. I always have like kind of fuzzy lines, and then it just looks like it was out of focus, and it's really annoying if you are doing like little flowers. One of the Turkish teachers I've met, she called it the dirty technique.
Love it. I'm dirty.
Because when you are rubbing the pencil, you're not having very clean, especially if you're doing the tiny biomorphs. All the area around it is going to have like a bit of a pencil charcoal leftover, and so it's a bit annoying. I tried the light box technique, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe because I did the LASIK eye thing, it really hurts my eyes if I'm painting on the on the light box for a while. So that doesn't work for me. The pigment, I find the pigment is the dirty technique, to be honest. It's just so messy. I never did pigment transfer without everything getting a bit messy. And I also get some part of the pigment that doesn't want to be covered by paint. And I don't find the same with pencils. So it's
Can you
like,
explain that pigment technique? Because basically, I think people can use that or graphite paper, which is the same principle.
yeah, I think graphite paper would probably be better. So with the pigment is you rub the
Pigment?
pigment on the tracing paper, but then you have your original thing on top. So it's like you're pressing, so it's like the pigment presses through. There's like 2 sheets.
Yeah, no, okay. I think, imagine that's your drawing. Pigment underneath your final paper there. And as you draw the lines, only the pigment ends up on that line. I did it once with Gia, actually. So I can sense how you could do that technique very neatly, be nice, but you can make a hot mess. So
that was the case for me. It was a hot mess, at least with the graphite paper, or we call it carbon paper. Do you ever refer to it as that?
Yeah, graphite and carbon. I think you can make your own, or you could buy it. because carbon paper is like the typical thing you have between receipts, but
Oh
also
yes.
you can literally make your own. You can rub a piece of paper with a graphite pencil and then put that underneath your drawing. So you've got your drawing, you've got your graphite facing down, and then you draw, and then it's done.
But
So
this only works if you have one section or one complete drawing. If you have several sections, you need to rotate them. The graphite thing on the rubbing is not gonna work in that way. So spoon for Samira, pencil for me. That's
yeah,
the
and
technique
also,
I'm going with.
you know, what is your level of precision that you enjoy and like? Don't do something that you don't enjoy the process of. So for example, I don't like redrawing the pattern. I'm lazy too. So, you know, therefore, if I did it, like when we were teaching together patterns from Uzbekistan, I tried my best to be doing things in the way you were explaining. But at the same time, I was like, this is really hard. This is really long. And I just wanted to do it my way. So, you know, like you have to find what you enjoy. And, you know, if you're investing 2-3 hours in a technique or a method, then, you know, you want to enjoy it.
Shall I ask you this?
Which one?
Ghazal Javad question.
Okay, because
Right,
go on, go for it.
How do you physically store, organize your artwork? The one that is to be used for future references, learning, just keeping it with you because you like it so much.
Okay, so me. I basically have a lot of my artwork on display, but this is, I would say, maybe 20% of it, a lot. And then I have A3 folders. So, you know, like wallets, like I guess like this sort of thing, but A3. And so in them, I have my construction, I have my tracing, any notes I've taken. I don't really take notes. And then, you know, my paintings of it. And then when I'm going to classes, I can just pull out that wallet and everything's in there. And then if there's paintings that I've done multiple of, I kind of take a selection of all of them. So for me, a lot of my paintings, I take to workshops as examples, or I show in a Zoom. So I keep them together. And I also have folders according to families of symmetry. So I have a 6-fold vaguely all together, 8-fold all together, 10-fold all together, biomorphic ones. I have a folder for that. I have all of them, and then some of them there's multiple folders. So I've got 3 folders of 6-fold, I've got 3 folders of 8-fold, and all my folders are A3 in size. So that's kind of folders on the wall in wallets. And then I also have these big massive folders to keep the big ones in as well. So I've got multiple ways, and I love organizing stuff. So it's kind of a hobby, I suppose.
Do you put them inside a shelf or a cupboard? Tell us about, let's visualize that with you.
So I've got like a bookshelf tall enough for A3 folders, so they're just all sitting there in the folders. I've also got a magazine holder in which I keep the unfiled things, and it's kind of overflowing, so I need to tidy up that. And then I've got the folders separately as well. So the word folder I've used a lot, but yeah, I tend to have them. And also, you know, like you build up portfolio of artwork. I've got another folder where I keep those, that kind of miscellaneous ones that maybe I want to sell, kind of together, kind of a little bit protected, just so that not kind of get caught up from me pulling and pushing them out. So I keep them in different places.
So where'd you get your folders from?
I think I bought the ones that are on Amazon, and the fancy ones. I'm just going to hold one up. Oh, these are kind of marbled folders.
Oh yes,
I got in that art shop in Paris. I got like a couple for me, a couple for my friends. I've got bigger ones than this, and now it's not standing. So yeah, it's just kind of having a kind of finding a way to organize them. For me also, I like to have things on display because I don't want things tucked away in folders forever and ever. So I used to update my display a lot more, but I've got 2 sides of my studio full of my own work. Why not? How about you, Esra?
I don't have a system. Everything is a mess. One day I will organize it when I hire a personal assistant. That day has not come yet, so we shall move on.
Okay, here's one from Fozia Ahmed. When selling your artwork, how do you price your piece?
Somebody told me, if you wake up and want to get out of bed, what number would get you out of bed? I went with that number. No lies. It was one of the motivations. She was like, this same lady, she was like, I wouldn't get out of my bed for less than £450 a day. And I was like, oh, interesting how you price yourself. I come from the academic world, and it's a much cheaper world. So it's like your day rate starts at 150, and then with your experience you can ask for more. So I try and have that in the back of my mind, but it's really hard to price artwork because A, how long did that artwork take you? B, if you are quick at making your artwork, why are you that quick? Is that your experience? Then your experience has to come into it. C, how much is the material costing you? Like, I have a studio, I have the studio cost, but you can't build it into like every single painting. It's like it goes into so many different paintings. How many paintings do you predict that you do per year? So there's like so many different things, but I would say choose a number that feels comfortable to you, because you will, if you say just sell it for the sake of selling it because somebody told you that £60 was a great number for like an A3 painting, and then you're not happy with that number, you will resent the fact that you sold it. Some people are just happy because you sold it. Some people will resent the fact that you're like, oh my God, why didn't I ask for more? Blah, blah, blah. So it can be really, really personal to you. There isn't, I would say, like a formula. Now I kind of figured out, based on my skill level, based on what I like to do, I kind of worked it out with prices, but then it really changes on the level of complexity. So it's like if it's an A4 paper, I would charge X amount, and then if it's A3, I know like the size has gone up, but complexity has gone up. So you know what I mean? There's just so many factors.
And also, like my point of view is always a bit, I guess, I was gonna say from the economics of it all, like, so like, do you want to sell a painting? Right? So if you have spent all these hours and all these costs that Esther's described, and you've priced it at something that maybe you can't sell it at, are you happy to sit and wait for it to be sold? Because you think that's a fair price because of all the costs that are definitely there, okay, hidden and kind of based on your experience and the investment of so many things. So if you're happy to sit there and wait for somebody to come along and pay that amount, then I think you should do that. That's brilliant. But sometimes we have a sort of sense of, oh, I actually want to sell a painting. I just want to sell something. So you kind of are going by, what can you actually sell your painting for? And it depends who you're crossing paths with, right? So somebody might be just like have not that much of a budget, and some people might have a lot, so it varies. I had a sort of vague rule for myself, so whatever I sold a painting at, the next time I'd always sort of increase the price a bit. So I kind of remember selling something for £90 when I first started. I was so excited because it was like my first commission, and then literally in 2 seconds another commission came in, and it was like, but this is my first commission. Are you my first? Because one ended up being the first, became the second, the first. Anyway, so I think I sold that one I'm going to go for £110. Like, so that little kind of moment of me increasing, and I've done that as well for other paintings. So if it was a similar thing, the next time it was a bit more, it was a bit more. So that whole thing about kind of picking a number out of the air, it is a factor. And you just have to start. And it's not a case of like, hello world, I'm now ready to sell my painting, and they're all queuing up to buy it necessarily. They're not. There's all this kind of periphery stuff about how you're going to market it. Do you list yourself on somewhere like Etsy, and how will people find you? You need to shout about yourself. Do you go to a marketplace? If you're going to a market and it's an arts kind of market that Esra does all the time, then how are your prices compared to other people's prices? Like, are people going to be walking around with that kind of budget in mind? So there's so many factors on you as an individual, the market that you're kind of facing, and all the rest in between. So a lot of factors. I think it's a big, sorry, I was going to say, it's an amazing thing that there are artists out there who sell their work for phenomenal prices, because I'm like, hats off to you. That takes guts and confidence, and like, I was going to say balls, but what I mean, it takes a real like something to say this is worth multiple thousands. And, you know, for people to buy into that, it's amazing. It's amazing because these are all luxury items, aren't they? None of them are necessary. So if you have the ability to convince people of your worth, exclusivity, and talent in that kind of way, oh, it's brilliant. It's inspiring. Let's all bottle that formula and I'll drink it. No problem.
And it depends as well what you want. So for example, now I have a target in my mind that I would like to sell some of my paintings for several thousands for financial reasons. You know, we want house deposit. So now I need to kind of level up my artwork to what I think it could be sold for. So now if I want to sell my work for a few thousands, yes, some people have like one line on a paper and be like, okay, give me 5,000 for it. And I don't know how they sell, it's money laundering. But other people put so much more into it. And for me, for the type of work that I want to produce, if I do an extremely detailed painting with like literally every gold aspect that I wanted, with all the natural pigments, and then I feel like comfortable to price it at these several thousands. So it your self-worth is sometimes tied to these art pieces, because sometimes a lot of us don't feel like we're worth a certain number. You're like, no one will buy my work for 500 pounds, or no one will buy it for 60 pounds. So it's just, you have to separate yourself from the artwork and try and look at it in a very logical way of like, okay, I spent this amount of hours on this type of artwork. I would like to get paid for it at least 450 or 650. And I just tend to kind of go with the flow as well. Market research is so important. Is if everyone is producing this specific geometric pattern, it is everywhere that you see. It's a very simple 8-pointed star, but it took you so much longer because you're a beginner. You can't price yourself the same price as someone else as well. So you have to like look into how much people are selling stuff. Going to art shows is really good because it gives you a perspective. Just looking at Etsy, how much people are selling their artwork. Is it an original? Is it a print? So many factors, but start from somewhere. Just sitting and mulling over with like, oh, but I should price it for this. Start with a number. Start with a number that you feel is fine. 60 pounds for an A4. Try that. If it's sold, as Samira said, keep increasing it until you are at that exact number that you're happy with.
Okay, I think we are due for a break. I'm just trying to find my break piece of paper.
Oh, did you do a nice one?
No, Charlotte did a nice one. But I don't know where here it is, downloads. So I'm gonna say that we come back at 10 past. Is that okay?
Sounds like a great idea. Yes, I'm gonna go
get a drink of water. And there's still some questions in there, so we'll try and catch up and make sure we've not missed any. But yeah, thank you for being here, and we will see you at 10 past.
See ya.
Okay, so Esra, more like actually if Charlotte is ready, we were wondering if we should do our little quick fire round. So Charlotte's got a set of questions and we're going to pick a number in turns and answer the question. I think there's 20 questions. Let's see how we go.
Who's going first?
E for Esra.
Oh, I think
you're muted, Esra, and you need to pick a number.
Oh, I picked number on mute. Okay, number 4, please.
Number 4. Okay, who do you admire?
Oh, like from history, just from current life?
Yeah, it could be from history, from the art world, current life.
I really love.
Maybe somebody.
I mean, obviously,
not so far away.
Obviously, like no questions asked. But other than Samira, I would probably go with Antonio Gaudi, the Spanish architect who did a lot of organic patterns. Oh my God, I went to Spain especially for him. No, he is amazing. I mean, he was amazing. He's dead, unfortunately. He's been dead for like 100 and a bit years.
Great answer.
Thank you.
Samira, pick a number.
Number 5, please.
Which country would you most like to visit?
Japan
Ah,
Good
or
one.
South Korea, because I feel they'd have amazing stationery and technology, and I always think I feel like they're often on the cutting edge of culture. So for example, when men used to wear those slightly above the ankles wide leg pants, I saw them at the airport. I thought, whoa, that's a bit radical 10 years ago, and now a lot of people wear that. So I just want to be amongst this very different world.
perfect. Ezra, question?
Number 10.
Number 10. This is the theme of the evening. What is your favorite type of paper?
Oh, of course it is. I really like cotton paper handmade in India. That's kind of like
Cardi.
khadi paper, yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's funny. Do you remember, Samira, I forwarded it on to you, that we had some lovely work sent in this morning from somebody, I don't know if they're on the call,
Yeah.
who was using beautiful handmade paper in India. Yeah.
Nice. It was nice. Okay, can I have number 11, please?
What item in your art box is worth spending more money on?
Paint, like metallic shiny ones. Esra, this is not even because you're sitting here, but I literally am about to run out of my this gold. No, is it copper?
Copper, yeah.
And I was just like, I'm just gonna buy loads of them. I'm just gonna buy loads of them. And they keep talking to me, and I'm like, I'm just gonna buy so many, and then I'll take them to the workshops, and then I'll do away with the other brands. I'm just gonna. So yeah, I literally had this thought, and I thought, don't be shy. So yeah, your paints. Who knew?
Do you reckon I should expand the metallic range? Or
Okay,
is it literally just gold and copper, the ones
I like gold and copper, and literally I use them the most. I started using the luster, which is a bit white.
The pearl one.
Yeah, the pearl. So but basically I use the gold and the silver. I mean the gold and these two. And look, it's time I got a new one, right?
Okay.
And
Say no more. Say no more. I have
no, I'm
love.
gonna buy them. Don't do any funny business. I'm buying
I'll
them.
just bring them with me. I have love.
No. Shh.
Actually, that ties nicely back to a question earlier on. I can't remember.
Yes, yeah. So somebody in New Zealand
That's
was
it.
asking about.
Ezra, your paint looks beautiful, but prohibitive in New Zealand.
Is it?
The postage for a beginner. Could either of you recommend a mainstream brand of gold metallic paint that I could get started with?
I always used Winsor & Newton gold gouache, like for everything before I started making my own. So I would go with that. Well, how about you, Samira? Do you have another?
I would say I like Talons, Royal Talons gold gouache, and I like their bronze and silver and copper. So I don't know how mainstream they are in New Zealand. They're a bit of a weird company. So Royal Talons, Talens. And Esra, by popular demand, Tabassum is saying, please expand the metallic range.
Oh, sure. The thing is, would we even use it? I feel like it's a novelty. Like, it's really pretty to see like a random shiny blue, but in real life, I don't feel like is it useful? Or maybe it is. I just have no idea.
It's a hard one. Yeah. Because some people use it really well, you know, like metallic pastel colors.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I don't know about that. I'm not that skillful in that world. Should we do a few more?
Yes, Ezra, pick a number.
Number 8.
One subject you would like to learn more about.
Oh, well, watercolors. Although I paint a lot with thick watercolors, but I really want to get into the loose watercolors. Like I've might have signed up to about 5 different courses on watercolors. Samira, I got the Domestika subscription. I couldn't resist.
Unbelievable.
There's like so many things. I know YouTube is filled with free tutorials, but free stuff really annoy me because they give me a lot of ads. They're not like in a specific order, and it's not based on subjects. So I just rather pay for it. It was like £10 each, so it's fine. So yes, watercolor would be my answer.
Linda Swinbank and Caroline Bates have suggested Fine Tech Calero. I like that as well, but I must say, gosh, it runs out so quickly. Like I've never got through paint the way I got through that set of 5 I had, and I was just like, why are you running out so quickly? So that was slightly disheartened me, but they were really good quality. So yeah. May I have number 19, please?
What is the best present you have ever received?
Oh,
Okay, so basically my nephews, they made a shoebox, and in they put in my favorite things and handmade cards, which were really witty and funny, quite cheeky as well. So yeah, I love food and edible food gifts. I don't like fancy gifts. I always feel like some sort of responsibility to react in a really like ooh way, and I was just like, because I'm not really attached to things that much. Maybe I don't know, but yeah. So they put in such like all the nonsense I eat, and you know they kind of carefully wrapped it, and you know, so edible gifts for me are the best thing, especially when people go to a supermarket. I'm sure they're trying to think like me, and they're picking up all the stuff and then they put it in a box and give it to me, because that's just amazing. So yeah, the Bussum, I would not say no to a box of mangoes, but no one's actually ever gifted me that. I think I have received, another nice gift was once a friend took me to an afternoon tea for my birthday, but I didn't realize. So somebody was singing, the piano man was singing happy birthday, and I was like, oh wow, somebody's birthday, and the cake came towards me. I was so taken aback that, because it was a few days, or I would say a month after my birthday, and it was a surprise, but that was a wicked present. So that was really nice. So I have to thank the lovely Bella for that. That was a wonderful. But yeah, edibles.
Very nice. Very nice.
Esra,
number 20.
Okay, if you could only pack 5 art materials or pieces of art equipment, what would they be?
Well, I kind of need paper, so paper would be first. A box of paints, and I'll take like the biggest one that I could take.
Such a cheat.
And then it's like I'll have a few collections within that box, like Travel Slow and the bright one that I made. Now there's 2. Oh well, obviously some gold. No, actually a separate one for genuine gold, just genuine gold on its own. The Japanese one. Oh my god, so beautiful. I was painting with it today and I was like, I need jars of this. This is stunning. 2 more. A compass.
Yeah.
A pencil that already includes an eraser. Oh, I don't have a straight edge. It's okay. I think I'll find something.
Perfect. We haven't had the brushes conversation yet, have we?
Oh, I didn't even have brushes with me on my imaginary.
You didn't even have a pencil.
I didn't have a pencil, exactly.
This 5 is very prohibitive. We cannot create with such limitations.
No. I need like at least 8.
Can I have number 1, please?
Oh, okay. What was your first job?
My first job was working in Sainsbury's as the person who signed up people for the newly launched Nectar card, so the rewards card. And I went around sort of signing people up. I did it for the morning. I remember signing up somebody because it was in Victoria, which is very near to Buckingham Palace. I remember somebody signed up and their address was Buckingham Palace, and I was like, you're not the queen. And literally, like I didn't know. And then I remember having lunch in the Sainsbury's canteen. Everything was cheap. 5p for chips, 5p for this, 5p for that. So I had a really grand lunch. And then I took myself to the telephone box outside and I called my temp agency and I said to them, excuse me, I thought I'd have a desk. I didn't know I had to stand all day. So I don't want to come back tomorrow. So I basically finished my day and then I never went back.
What an amazing day. How old were you?
I think it was a summer job, but I don't know between what. I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe I want to say, I don't think I had any desire to work when I was at college. Maybe 18, maybe after something like that.
Yeah, maybe it was after A levels before going to.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd better do the thing that everyone else does. But well, my heart wasn't in it. But yeah, that was my first job.
Thank you.
Okay,
Ezra,
what numbers did we do? Did we do number 2? Did I start with number 2?
No, you haven't had number 2. What
Okay,
is your
cool.
favorite season?
Autumn, I would say, or should we say fall?
No, don't say.
Just for you, Samira.
Literal.
I would say that it's just really pretty. I love all the colors. It's still like crisp air. Why are you frowning at my answer?
Because it's not the best season.
What is the best season? Please don't tell me it's summer.
Spring.
Oh, okay.
Full of hope.
I don't mind spring as much. I just get such mad hay fever, so it's kind of turning me off the whole season.
Okay, I'll let you off. Medical conditions.
Yes.
May I have number 17, please?
What motivates you the most?
Okay, this is really gonna sound horrific, but I swear money motivates me a lot. And it's so funny. Like the other day, like I'm always kind of feeding back little snippets to my family, my mum especially, and telling her random things. I made this much this month, I made this much. And she kind of relates to when she was back in the day, she was a home machinist. So my dad was a train driver, then he retired, so he worked on the tube, and my mum was like, okay, the kids are big now, I want to earn some money. So she was a home machinist, so sewing clothes for retail but at home. And she was saying, such a kind of palpable, enjoyable thing to think how much money I've made today, because you kind of doing it by piece. And I was like, oh my god, that's the same for me. So there's something really, I guess, written about it. But it's such a sort of, I guess, a not quite right thing to say, motivator, but it does give you some sort of energy and motivation, and then you want to do it in the right way. So the thing I really like doing about what I'm doing is spreading the knowledge about these patterns, and that is an overlying thing, and it is an overlying massive motivation. That's how I kind of go about the world. But I cannot not say that when I earn a big chunk of money, whatever, it makes me feel so good, and like you feel, oh my god, I did that, I made that, I did this. And so I think there's the nice kind of version, but also just the pure guts of it. It's good to earn
I think that there's always been this sort of tension between can you be an artist who exactly that is, and money is one of the motivations, and it's very, very strange because and I've noticed that sort of creatives who come to the museum and we work with them, I think I said this quite early on to you, Samira, they always sort of are quite reticent about, pricing, and it's sort of, there's an awkwardness about it. And I think, an artist or, a creative, an educator who's out there with their own career, which is generating an income, is something fantastic and to be really celebrated. So I'm glad you said that, actually.
And I think also like this perhaps kind of a nobleness to being a creative and so on. So somehow if you mentioned money, you kind of maybe take away, but I'm thinking they go in hand. You need to feed and clothe yourself and all the things you need to do. So it'd be no good to anybody. And also the more you make, the wider you reach, the more you will be able to get people to see your artwork. They go literally hand in hand. So
I came back to Samira, was it last year? I sent you the breakdown of like, oh my god, my money is an actual career. It's like, look at how much it grew, and you see it every year. Like one of the years I only made like £1,000 the whole of the year for my art, and then how it just went up, and it was such a great moment to just feel it.
It's amazing. And also we often don't celebrate ourselves and what we've achieved, and I'm like, when I'm reminded that I've just made a career out of of our air. I'm so proud of myself, like I think, yeah, I did that. And it's I don't know, I think I'm happy to shout about that and enjoy it. Shall we carry on?
Should we do the question, go back to the chat questions?
Yeah, I think there's a few that I feel like I've missed, so I'm going to scroll up. But Esra, the Bassam, if you can answer that question, and I can maybe do it as well. But it says, was it scary to take on art as a profession?
The funny thing is, it was scary to me having a 9-to-5 job. Literally, that was the scary part. I was like, I cannot fake, because I did some teaching at university. I kind of knew part of the drill of like how it is. There was loads of paperwork, and I liked teaching. I just didn't like the actual paperwork. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wake up. Like, I see my husband as well, waking up at 7 a.m, really miserable, getting his train. I saw that and I was like, nope, that's not gonna be me. I cannot. So when I was like, I have my art and I'm just gonna try and make it work for me. It didn't obviously work the first few years, but thankfully it is now. But it's in combination with a lot of things. This is the thing, as when you take your art as a profession, it's not literally just making the art and selling the artwork. I am doing loads of other things. I'm making the paint. I am teaching my classes. I have the monthly illumination club.
Podcaster.
I do the podcast, just finished season 4. Well, one more episode for season 4. And it's just like loads of fingers in so many different pies.
Yeah.
So I guess it wasn't scary in that sense. I did have a meltdown about like just making money out of art like 2 months ago, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna fail. But it's like when somebody buys something later, you're like, okay, I'm fine.
I feel like it's not a smooth path. It's not a straight path, and you've got to have sort of the ability to like catch a ball here, find this here, do this. Like you're kind of bouncing around, and you've got to be, I think, a little bit innovative and flexible as well. So like for me, I didn't necessarily think I was making a career out of art. I thought I'm going to start teaching because that's what I knew. And then, people would then say, do you sell your art? And I was like, yeah, I sell, kind of really wimpy way. And I still don't deem myself like an artist the way I deem myself a teacher, because it's such a longer life experience. And I feel like it's a skill set that I happily content with. So like sometimes the way you view yourself and the way others view you is quite different. So you have to be, I guess, open to realizing, yeah, maybe I am an artist, or maybe I am a this, I am a that. So one of the kids yesterday at a workshop, I said, are you an entrepreneur? I said, maybe I am. So it's really funny to me. I never use that word. It just doesn't occur to me to say that, but clearly I must be, because when I described what I described, he said, yeah, I think you're an entrepreneur. So that was really funny. Somebody else asked about what have been the biggest challenges, stumbling blocks facing you in your careers, Esra?
I don't really know, because sometimes just surviving the month and paying your bills is a challenge. Like when it comes to art, like I had some months where it was so slow. I was like, oh my god, the end of the month is approaching and I literally don't have any rent money. And like obviously I could, like, thankfully I have family and friends, like they wouldn't let me be on the streets. I could call them up, be like, please give me some money. But I feel like that could be a challenge. I feel like the constant need to create things can be really exhausting sometimes. It's like, because sometimes I just want to chill and watch Netflix, but then I feel really bad and I have like this guilt of like, oh my god, how dare I enjoy this free time. We have like this, I feel like I come from a very, if you're not productive, you are kind of failing or going behind. I'm trying to correct that. I try and chill as much as possible if I have time, but it's just that guilt of like, oh, you're chilling but you're not creating. I feel like that could be a challenging. And just creating for Instagram sometimes it's like, oh my god, I have no content. Like, what am I going to do? Are people going to forget about me? Is my engagement going to go down? It's like, nothing I feel like I experienced was like, oh my god, this is life changing for me in terms of like, I can't move forward. This is a huge challenge. I felt like lots of little rocks on the path of like, oh, oops, I was about to fall, but I kind of picked myself up, or you know what I mean?
I think lockdown was a huge challenge because literally my workshops went to zero,
Oh
and
yes.
that was a massive one. But I kind of took the time to just do the things I'd put off. So I organized my website a bit better, actually carried out what I'd thought about for how many years. I changed on my sort of added to my YouTube. And then when I look back, I thought, oh my God, that was such an effort. So those were those challenges specifically. I think that all of us, the whole world had to kind of think about how they were processing that time. But I'm going to say social media is such a headache. I do not understand Instagram anymore. It makes me feel like I'm not reaching what I used to. I looked back at stories, like when we asked our questions, like, would you like to ask? The last time I had one of those, I literally was answering it nonstop. I had to take a break for dinner. Like, it was so many questions. I was very overwhelmed. And this time it literally was about 5 questions, and one of them was from Esra. So
like literally no one cared.
So yeah, it makes you feel like, oh, what's happening?
My question, are you ever going to answer it?
Say that again.
Are you ever going to answer my very valuable question?
Which one? Oh, your valuable question. Okay. Okay, so Esra, okay, I think actually I've just looked at the questions from Instagram.
Shall I ask it to you?
Islamic Illumination said,
what's your skin routine, Samira? You're so glowing all the time. I can't, like, your skin is so stunning, mashallah.
I can't stand questions like this. Like, has nobody ever heard of genetics and makeup? I mean, I'm not wearing makeup. It's just genetics, man. You take my genes, off you go. I literally, when people ask stuff like that of each other on the internet, I'm like, I think you've got the line when people say to you, what brush are you using? Like, the brush is going to be the thing. Like, you say to Beyonce, what microphone are you using? Exactly. Some questions on the internet, I just think they're a little bit, what's the word? Like part of the general way some people interact, and it's just I find it.
But regardless of that amazing question, but I do know Samira's skin routine and the steps, because we compared. Remember when we came back from Morocco? When you came back from Morocco,
routine is a really excessive word for me saying I wash my face with Dove and then apply Nivea.
We were talking about the steps that you would take every morning to like make your face. Is like, how many steps, if you count them, how many would it be?
I can't remember.
And then it's like you said, after Morocco, it reduced.
Oh yeah. I must say, the environment I lived in Morocco, nobody wore makeup. Literally nobody. So we were so chilled out. You literally just washed your face, put moisturizer on, and off you went. But
that's what I do in my neighborhood in London. Unless I go to central London, I don't put makeup on.
But when I was a teacher, I felt the urge. So when I was a school teacher, I felt the urge to somehow make myself look older and more serious. So I would dress more formally, and I literally wore foundation. And I was like, who does that? And then I see other people do that, and I'm like, we do and have things that are somehow linked to our perception or what we, it's a bit more complicated than just putting, getting ready to go out. It's got all these layers.
But I'm gonna go to Yusra's question because she had a little follow-up.
Yeah.
We did a follow-up. She's saying, thank you so much. I enjoyed the process. I don't mind taking the time to master my arts. I've been following tutorials, but I don't feel like tutorials actually teach you how to analyze the patterns.
Can I pause there?
Yeah, go on.
Have a go. Try to analyze the pattern. So if you've got a brand new pattern in front of you, try and analyze it. That process will tell you whether you've learned something from tutorials. If you don't step away from the tutorials and try to analyze, because that's your goal, then you'll never know that you can or can't. And analyzing will take, maybe the first time you try and do it will take 6 or 7 drawings, 8 drawings, 9 drawings, 10 drawings. You might be working on GeoGebra. Do you have to learn GeoGebra? Or like some sort of vector software, or you're doing it by hand. So that thing that you want to do it.
And I also think it's really useful. I know that the teacher has already analyzed the pattern, but it is useful to see how people analyzed it. So it's like when a teacher is taking you through these steps of like, oh, let's draw these circles. It's like, be really hyper aware of what is happening. You're not just drawing whatever you're told.
And why are you doing it? Be preemptive. So when I'm looking at or when I'm teaching something, I try to explain why we're doing it. Okay, this pattern is an 8-fold, so we need to basically divide our circle into 16. This needs to be this length in proportion, you know, so this needs to be here. So, you know, like be a little bit of a kind of a thoughtful follower of a tutorial and try to think, okay, why are we doing this? And, you know, when you try to analyze a pattern, try to analyze similar ones. And also no patterns are related. So when you're doing or learning one pattern, it's going to feed into your analysis of a similar pattern. You're going to see overlaps in terms of the proportions and the structure and even the steps. So yeah, they do feed into each other. But yeah, basically have a go, and then you'll be sort of you know, surprised, or maybe you'll be like, oh yeah, this does take a long time, I need to learn more, sort of thing. Yeah,
and it's like they take a while to things for things to fall into place, for your mind to really realize what it's happening, like what it's doing.
Okay. All right, I'm going to answer the things that are on my, you know, I said I only had 5 questions. If I don't answer them, that's crazy. So
Okay,
one of them was okay, from Isla Sinna Art. Do you contact institutions and offer workshops, or do they contact you, or both?
that's
So
a
for
good
me,
question.
yeah, good, isn't it? All right, thank you, Isla. So for me, it was both. When I first started, I would contact, this is my classic story. I contacted 20 different people. I personalized the email to each of them. I tried to look at what their vibe was and their setup, and try to adapt the email accordingly, not to be too generic, and basically asking them if I could host a workshop on at their venue. And of those, CASART told me to go to CASART Islington. Open Ealing I still work with. Harrow Arts is just a place where you rent your room. Yeah, I took my entire portfolio. Bit odd, I didn't know how it worked. And then the others never replied or were negative. So, you know, when you're doing that kind of getting yourself sorted, you need to be ready to reach out multiple ways, the same way you would for job interviews, I guess. And on the flip side, people have contacted me, and I love my inbox because it is a really exciting place where people do get in touch with exciting opportunities. So yeah, people do.
And I think follow-up and persisting is really good. It's like when I contacted people, it's not like I just contacted them that once and they responded right away and that was it. Sometimes I had to really chase people up. So when I did the workshops at West Elm, I attended a workshop there and I was like, oh, I really enjoy the venue. And then I contacted them like 5 times for them to be like, okay, fine, you can host a workshop. But you need to keep doing stuff like that. You can't just like send one email and shelf it at the end.
And also you are always interacting with other humans, okay? And so it's really important to be a polite, nice, positive, engaging version of yourself. Like when I don't respond to an email for whatever reason, I haven't sat down at my laptop, or basically it doesn't matter what the reason is. If I haven't responded and somebody's chased me up before I've had a chance to respond, my back is up already. I'm like, what are you chasing me for? Like, give me a chance. So this instant reply that people have, that can feed into when you're contacting people yourself, you know, like give people a chance. You know, like I have definitely been put off by many people who've contacted me and then chased me before I've had a chance to reply. I'm like, bad mark. And sometimes it's worked out because they've done it graciously and nicely. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, you are going to have to do some hefty work to make yourself come across better now. So
Yeah, it's like don't chase them up like after 24 hours of sending the email.
within 24
like,
hours sometimes.
that is so irritating. But it's like if you leave it a week, I feel like a week is very
that's
reasonable.
reasonable. Good to put a time on it, actually, Esther, because some people might be thinking, is 5 minutes too short?
Imagine, I emailed you 3 minutes ago and I see that you are online on Instagram, but you choose not to respond.
It's really funny, but the person who's contacting you, you know, they're in charge of how they communicate. So once I had somebody who contacted me by email, Instagram, and Facebook, and it turned out well for that person, and another person did the same, but the way they were talking to me was just not polite, and I just thought, I'm like, I don't work for you. Like I kept sort of thinking to myself, who are you? And so I basically sent them a message like a week later. You know, I kind of delayed it because I was like, I ain't got time for this. I need to just not be an angry replier. and I just told them off. Can't talk to people like this. It's not nice.
True. Go on. Do your second question, and then I can do 3 questions from now.
Yeah. Oh, Isla. Okay. This is a good one from Max. I'd like to understand the rules upon which Islamic geometric patterns take form. So he's asking, why do the patterns look like the way they do? And this is kind of a question that sometimes it feels it's hard to pin down the answer, because for every time you think you have an answer, you kind of have an exception to that rule. But if we just look at one sort of family of patterns, so like I want to say rosettes, okay? You could say for constructing rosette patterns, the one that have a star at the middle and then kites going around it and then something you could call petals, that family of patterns, beyond those petals have these stars. So it's all about the proportions of those petals and those stars that dictates everything else. So there's certain rules to be followed, that you optimize certain qualities, and it's a visual quality that a shape is this proportion, or this petal is a certain proportion. And what you find is when you've optimized those proportions, then you get the best balance. Okay, now it's really hard to answer this without visuals, but say that's for rosettes. Now say, for example, if I just look at a family of 8-fold patterns, you get a different visual language in like Mughal India than you have, say, in Morocco. But you could say one thing they share is, for example, they have certain angles involved in all of them. So, for example, multiples of 45 degrees would be somewhere in everywhere of those. Okay, so you have to have a certain underlying grid with certain proportions for that to happen. There's a side length on a particular shape that you will see reoccurring in all the different shapes. So they share certain qualities. Okay, so they can only be done if you construct them in a grid which is set out for 8-fold symmetry, and therefore those angles, you divided your space into those angles already, and you're constructing or making decisions to bring out those shapes. And so they share this common underlying structure and grid. That means that when you look at them, they have certain qualities. And if, for example, I draw a pattern and it doesn't have that quality, it'll appear jarring to me, or it'll appear, not just to me, but to many of us, it'll appear like it doesn't quite fit. So there's a certain visual language that the way you reach it in terms of seeing it, they're following certain rules, share certain characteristics in terms of their proportions, their side lengths, their angles, and so on. So one of the reasons I like working on GeoGebra is that my analysis doesn't just arrive me at something that looks like the pattern, but every single angle is an angle that fits in with that family. It should be correct, and if it isn't, then my analysis has gone wrong. So checking angles for me is a really like satisfying step, and if it's not, then I have to kind of sort of rework it. I hope that makes sense, but that's a really kind of hard question, which I feel people don't always answer. And also there's certain rules as to, the shapes need to individually have certain symmetrical qualities. The pattern collectively has to have symmetrical qualities. So hardly ever do you see a pattern which in its own right, the shapes don't have those, angles that I mentioned that should be certain angles, those proportions, or like a quality in its own right. But then you get rotational symmetrical patterns which have don't have a line of symmetry. So there's always an exception to that as well. But sorry, I'm still answering the question. But like the patterns should have qualities in their own right. So the shapes you're using should have certain qualities and proportions, and collectively, and in the spaces in between.
I think that's a great answer.
Oh, I don't know. I think I'd love to answer it better.
Because like a lot of people sometimes are like, oh, you can just innovate and make up those patterns and just do that.
So that's, I think, the follow-on question from Yusra. She said, I'd like to create my own patterns. Ooh, see, this is the thing. When you're learning the vast language of the patterns, you'll find that it's only a few people who are able to, I think, analyze them sufficiently to be able to create their own. Because usually when you think you've created your own, it exists somewhere in the architecture and history. The new patterns have to come from applying, I guess, the rules into a slightly new scenario. So for example, yesterday at the exhibition. The guy exhibiting next to me, Stefan Pautz, he had 10-fold Giri patterns. So 10-fold, he'd apply to 14-fold. So he's a computer guy. So isn't that amazing to take what you know from 10-fold and apply it to 14-fold? So that's quite clever. Quite being understatement of the century.
No, but the thing is, as you said, there are some rules that apply.
Yeah.
So the proportion, the symmetry, the collective proportion of everything. So it's like you can't ignore these. And these, unfortunately, they are not learned like that. Like they take years to master, unless you're a master of like AutoCAD or those programs that do a lot of the calculations for you. All right. I have a question from Arabic.tezhib that says, what is the benefits of having an art degree from the university for an artist?
I don't have an art degree. I've got maths and management degree from King's College London. So I don't have a benefit of it.
I would say art degrees are good to explore. So I have design degrees, which are very similar to art. So they have the same vibe. And they're good to explore certain things. If you're passionate about a specific subject, you have that space to just try it out. It is good for connections. It's a way in. If you can get into the degree shows and somebody useful comes along to these degree shows, like we did a degree show, no one kind of got a job out of the degree show in my university, but some universities I know, they got amazing opportunities. Like the right people just turned up and they got hired and great things happened to them. So also the learning, you could just learn specific skills depending on where you go to university. Like certain universities in the US more than the UK, they actually teach you loads of really amazing skills, how to use these programs, how to utilize this, how to do that. So it depends on the university that you go to.
And also education, like on any level, is, you don't always know its value immediately or for your profession only. You can, learn things and they kind of will be helpful in a very kind of general way. You don't necessarily know that you're learning the kind of the softer skills or these other skills. And also some places, I guess internationally, will take you seriously if you have a kind of a qualification from certain places. So I can't deny that that is a reality for a lot of people in a highly competitive world. So that's definitely one thing.
Yeah, like if you want to teach within the industry, if you want to teach at university level, you have to have the degrees. Like literally you can't, no matter, unless you're like, I don't know, one in a century, but most people have to have these degrees to actually go anywhere.
I've got a question that I have just noticed that I've missed. Is from Moye Atelier, which I think is Sana. Oh my god, I've got the name instantly. Okay, I do know who you are, by the way. Okay, how did you choose Islamic geometry and Isra choose Islamic illumination? Why did it stick with you? I don't know, that's a bit mysterious. I guess for me, it's that mix of things I enjoy doing. So I love structure and drawing and doing. I love doing things with my hands and my hand. So I do like hands-on activities, but similarly I don't really like other hands-on activities. So I'm not sure why this one fits for me so well, and the still sticking to it surprises me. I am always wondering when will come the day that the novelty will wear off or I'll evolve into something else. The day hasn't come yet, so I kind of don't I enjoy it to the point I enjoy it, and if that changes, then think something will change. So there is something that I connect with in terms of the actual process, and the beauty that I'm able to create is something that I get a lot from.
Very nice. I don't know why I got into illumination. I was just basically, I started with Islamic arts from a stereotype. One of my lecturers at university during my master's was like, why don't you do a mosque design? And I was like, whatever, I'm not doing a mosque design just because I'm Muslim. And then I just kind of gave it some thought, and I was like, literally, I have no idea where I would start. I've never designed anything, any Islamic spaces. And I didn't know anything about Islamic history or geometry or loads of things, even though I lived in Saudi my whole life. So I started doing the classes, and from the classes, Richard and Adam mentioned they graduated from the Princess School, so I started taking classes there. And then when I started painting illumination, I really enjoyed it. And I kind of enjoyed it more than geometry because the structure was a bit too much for me, because I like to let my brain run wild and free. I like to think of those the most random things that lead to zero concentration. And I can do that when I'm painting illumination and biomorphic patterns. I could just do anything. You don't need, like, you have lines that hold you in, but you can just do whatever you want within those lines. Any curve, any flower, change up the flower. And I really enjoy that freedom. And I don't know, I feel like it has been decided universally for me. It just felt right. And nothing before that point felt, it was like normal, like whatever. It was just like everything I did was nice. It wasn't like, oh my God, what is this horrible thing? I enjoyed everything I did before that point, but nothing was like made my heart sing like when I did the first pattern and illuminated it. And I was like, oh my God, I really like this.
Okay, I've got two questions that I can see. One's on my phone. Where and how can I start learning Islamic art? So I think that's definitely head to our websites, because like I've got like a little essay on my first page. Esra's got similar ways to guide you, as in I think you've got an article about where to begin.
Yeah, just literally start here.
Yeah. And also I just saw one, it was about how long did it take for you to feel like you mastered this craft and art? I think it took me a while, but also I personally am not dabbling in, I would say, complex patterns actively at all. Like I've avoided certain levels because I'm getting a lot out of learning the more kind of intermediate chunk of patterns. So the complex ones, it's like I'm saving them for later. So because I've basically put a ceiling above me, I want to kind of really dance in this room as much as I can, get as much out of it before I go further. So I don't consider that I've mastered it, because I've set a limit on what I want to explore and engage and teach, and I don't want to do anything too complex. So if I avoid the hard stuff, I don't necessarily feel like I've mastered it, but I definitely feel like I understood. Okay. What about you, Esra?
I don't feel like I fully mastered my biomorphs yet. It's like I was actually gonna include this in my post later today. So here, you got dibs. A lot of my shapes are quite chunky and they annoy me, but that's how my hand is doing right this moment. And I haven't mastered the very fine shapes, and I'm trying to be okay with that. And I feel like mastery is something that people will recognize after you die, which is like a bit grim. But it's like if you're always improving and learning and changing things, maybe after some years I will feel that in my 60s. I don't know, but I don't feel like I'm mastered it yet. I feel like I'm literally at the beginning of the road. Yes, I'm a bit ahead of some people because I teach this, but if I just look at my work and then look at the master's work, I don't know if they thought of themselves as masters when they created these manuscripts that are with us now, but I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, these are absolutely amazing. And I wish I can reach that level. So I'm still kind of in the middle. Oh, we have a lot of few goodbyes.
Yeah, no, the messages are really lovely. But you know, this idea of mastery, it's okay to be on a path towards something, and you may or may not achieve it, you may not feel it, it's not something that's fixed. Some days you feel like everything's clicking as though you understand everything fully. The next day you might have loads of failed attempts. So it's more a case you're on a path that is headed towards a goal, and you're happy to take that wobbly, bumpy path and all that it brings, and just enjoy it. Just enjoy that learning process. And as long as you kind of always recognize your progress and your improvement, you don't compare to other people, that's not necessary, you will feel like you're working towards your goal of getting towards mastering something.
And you will also see it. So it's like, I look at some of my work, like loads of people loved the pattern I did in 2018 and I exhibited it. And I still look at it now and I'm like, oh my God, how did I even show this to the public? Like, it has so many obvious mistakes, but loads of people didn't care that they were there. So, but now when I'm doing my new painting that I just started, I'm like, you know what? I want to avoid certain things that really bothered me in the previous one. So it's just one gigantic learning curve, I would say.
Path.
Do you want to go to Caroline's message?
Go for it. Oh yeah, no, Caroline, you know, yesterday I had loads of people, but I was surrounded by Penrose tilings, and it's really interesting. That's got a real nice quality in its own right, which is basically they're aperiodic, which means they don't repeat. And it's really interesting that the rules that they were talking about, so you know, as modern day mathematicians, people care about the nature of patterns and whether they repeat or not, but the people creating those Islamic geometric patterns, they discovered, or they have within them, those Penrose tiles, the kites, the two rhombuses, but it's not necessarily the same thing that drives them. And this is something Richard Henry was saying yesterday, and I like the way he articulated it. So when we compare modern day mathematicians to those craftsmen, they don't have the same goal. So, you know, like for the Islamic patterns, they're literally filling a space according to a symmetry, a tenfold symmetry, a rectangle, and so on, and they're applying proportions. Whereas the modern day mathematicians want to create, you know, the pattern doesn't matter in terms of its beauty, but will it repeat? This is a priority. We don't want it to repeat. Is it aperiodic? So they kind of, yesterday there was somebody who'd invented in 2020 a monotile, one tile, that it's on a hexagon and it's a pattern that will never repeat. And that was like a new invention. People didn't think it was possible. The maths community went wild. But you know, like, it's such a different priority. So it's really interesting to compare these two types of peoples, and they dabbled in very similar things, but they didn't have a similar desire to kind of progress, kind of different paths. But yeah, it's a really nice thing that Penrose tiles existed in Islamic architecture. Beautiful.
Okay, what free resources are out there that you recommend we try for Islamic patterns and see if it's something for us? Well, have you been to the previous two classes that Samira just did? That's a great free resource. Samira's YouTube is like literally amazing. She has like so many things. They're all on my wish list to do.
Yeah, there's lots of free resources out there, so you don't have to spend money. When you spend money, you're just basically kind of a nod of the head to the person that's teaching you, so it's not necessarily you know, a big deal if you do or don't. But you know, if you've got limited budget, I've got like loads of YouTube stuff, and I've got 2 series on YouTube, 12-fold patterns and 5-fold. Yeah, I'm sure you got some YouTube stuff, Esra.
I have some few, but like,
but to be honest,
I have the Golden Flower Challenge. That's a good free resource. There's like 70 templates on my website. They're literally free.
Phenomenal. And also you've got Domestica.
Oh my God, it's so
very
cheap.
Reasonably priced. So you know,
yeah, we both have like classes that are under £20, which is, I would want to say.
So go to our websites, explore, see what tickles your fancy. Thank you for all the thank yous, by the way.
Oh, it's really sweet.
And it's now 7 o'clock.
Is it? Do you have any more questions, or is that it?
No, that is it. And I'm going to say thank you to Charlotte for hosting this and getting us on to this lovely, this wonderful little atmosphere that you created, Charlotte, because you have a certain energy that people aren't necessarily seeing, but yeah, we appreciate you, so thank you. And I hope the rest goes well as well. Well, over to you, Esra. High five.
High five. If you guys still have any more questions, you know, some of our DMs are open. If you're really nice, we might answer back. Or you'll have to wait for our next episode on the podcast someday.
Thank you both. It's been absolutely fascinating and wonderful listening to you. It's wonderful. So, Ezra, looking forward to next week. Samira,
Yes.
this is just adieu. It is not goodbye. We're not letting go of you now we found you.
Oh,
I'm going to be coming to visit you in October. I cannot wait.
Oh yeah, everybody! I don't know if you've have seen, but we have finally got a reopening date for Leighton House. So
I can't wait. That would be
we're
amazing.
so excited. 15th of October. So those that can, please come. We're really looking forward to welcoming you or welcoming you back. But those who can't, do not worry. We will carry on. Because those who are around the world, you're very, very precious to us. So do not worry that we're going to suddenly stop all of our online classes and so on. So yeah, take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
very
you. See some of you next week.
much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Charlotte. Thanks.